This is the oldest Disney pin ever. Isn't that amazing? This is from 1930. And you can see under the copyright it says by W.E. Disney, which is Walter Elias Disney. Although there was a TV show called the Mickey Mouse Club in 1955, this Mickey Mouse Club was an actual club which was in theaters where children would get together and watch Mickey Mouse cartoons. And they had these clubs, they had their own theme song and everything. And this was an actual button from a Mickey Mouse Club. Now, I said button, and it's a type of a pin. These are all buttons, or technically they're pin back buttons, because there's the pin on the back of them. But these are all different ones that I've received that I want to show you. I have hundreds, and these are some of my favorites. They're from parks, they're from my time working at Disney, TV animation, cast member, or really employee buttons. We weren't really cast members. Cast members were the people who worked in the parks, but when you worked in animation, you were an employee. But these are some of the ones that I love, and I want to share them with you. Now, I was saying that a pinback button is a type of a pin, and they still make them today, such as this one. This one is from Disneyland, and it says, "I'm celebrating," and there's a space to be able to write in whatever you're celebrating. And you can still get these for birthdays and anniversaries. This is when I had my 30th anniversary in Aulani in Hawaii. And I don't know if it's actually an anniversary because it says we're married. So maybe it was for a wedding, maybe it says happy wedding, but it worked for me. And then this one was when I had my anniversary in Disneyland Paris. And this is kind of a funny one too, because I don't know how, joyeux anniversaire maybe? I don't know how to speak French, I'm sorry. But they didn't have happy anniversary buttons. And although it looks like anniversary, it really is saying happy birthday. But it worked for us again. This is a happy anniversary, and it says happy anniversary, I know that. And this was from the Disney Cruise Line when we celebrated our anniversary on a Disney cruise. And then there were the buttons which were sold in the parks, like these two, which are identical, except you'll see that at the bottom of one of them, it says Disneyland, and at the bottom of the other, it says Walt Disney World. It's funny because years ago, and certainly when I was growing up, buttons were much more popular than pins. You would find these all over in all the gift shops all over. And not just Disney either. And then my very favorite resort, the Tokyo Disney Resort, and this was from the 2nd anniversary of Tokyo Disneyland, and that was in 1985. At the bottom there it says Walt Disney Productions. Later it became the Walt Disney Company. But it's a cute pin. And then the pins got much more extravagant. This one is from 2017. Then that Japanese writing says Summer Festival, which was one of the special events they had. They have great events there. And this one is even more extravagant. I love this park, Tokyo DisneySea. That's their 2nd park in the Tokyo Disney Resort. Beautiful park. But this was the grand opening in 2001. And I don't know if it shows up on camera, but all the sparkles have kind of a dimension to it. And the costumes that the characters are wearing actually represent some of the lands within that park. This one isn't a Disney button at all, but it has the very famous quote of Walt Disney, "If you can dream it, you can do it." And the reason that it's not Disney is that wasn't a Walt Disney quote at all. Walt Disney never said it. In fact, it was written for General Electric, and here's the General Electric logo at the top. It was written by Sheryl Lynn Silverstein as a slogan for General Electric. And I'll do a video one day showing why it became associated with Walt Disney. And even an Imagineer takes credit for that quote. But the reality is it was written for General Electric. So I keep this with my Disney buttons. Here's an early Disneyland Paris, back when it was called Euro Disneyland. And this is from 1992, when the park first opened. I don't remember if this was a cast member exclusive or not, but this one is. This was given to us when I was working at the studio. And it was the 25th anniversary of the Walt Disney Archives. So that would make this 1995. It's kind of an interesting design and choice of colors, but you see Mickey there behind the big 25? But some of the buttons I like not just because of the look, but for what they represent, and this is one of those. This was from my favorite year at Disneyland, which was 1990, and it was the 35th anniversary celebration, and it was an amazing celebration. They had my favorite parade to date, the Party Gras Parade. They had the great stage show, One Man's Dream, which was at the Videopolis Theater, now the Fantasyland Theater. And there's all kinds of special events that year. And I don't know if you can see this on camera, but if you move it around, there's kind of like holographic style graphics of sparkles and things behind it. But a very fun year at Disneyland. I think that was merchandise. I think that was one that you could buy. This you couldn't buy, and it wasn't cast member either. It's from Disneyland, and it says State Fair 88. That was another special event that they had. But the way that you would get this button was they had midway games, and if you won one of them, you could win this button. So that's kind of neat because you couldn't buy it. Now, I was working in TV animation. I worked on DuckTales, and I worked on TaleSpin, and it was also the launch of the new Disney Afternoon. But of course it was special to me because it was the shows that I was working on. And DuckTales is where I got my start with Disney. And then I was promoted to assistant producer of TaleSpin, so I had to have a TaleSpin button. And I could see on the back here, I'll show you that, it was merchandise because there's the barcode and the price there. I probably bought this on the studio store on the lot at the time. Here's a vintage EPCOT button. Actually, at the time, it was still called EPCOT Center, as you can see. And there's Figment. This was still the original Journey into Imagination attraction. And you could see the copyright is 1982. So this was the opening year of EPCOT. I love Figment. And be sure to watch my video about 2 of the people who did the voice of Figment. This is a bit unusual. When I was working for Disney back then, they didn't yet own ABC or anything. And they first bought a channel, which was local to Los Angeles, KHJ. KHJ was Channel 9 on our TVs. And this was when we welcomed KHJ TV to the Disney family in 1988. Now, this one was an employee exclusive pin at the studio. It says, "I've got Environmentality," and it was given out only on Earth Day 1992. Environmentality was a campaign that Disney had to help promote things to help the environment, such as recycling. And the mascot of the Environmentality campaign was Jiminy Cricket. This one's interesting. In 1992, we had the Disney Employee Forum, which was an annual event held on the Disney Studio lot in one of the sound stages, and all the heads of the company told us everything going on company-wide. Then on the back lot, each department in the company had a display of what was going on in their department at the time. I was working for Disney Consumer Products, and there was a lot of new merchandise themed to Goofy at this time, and we gave out these buttons, which are supposed to look like a presidential campaign button. Here's a picture I took of Goofy with the pin on his pants. This is a pretty iconic building that's in Burbank today. It's the Feature Animation Building, and this button is from when that building was first built. That was in 1994. And if you haven't seen it, the building actually has that giant sorcerer hat right next to it. So this is a stylized version of the building and hat that really exists in Burbank. This was just given to the press during a special event, and I did do a video about this, the Disney Afternoon Live in Disneyland. This was in 1991, but the Disney Afternoon Live was special for a few reasons, not the least of which is it was the first time that they had a location, an actual building, where you could go inside and meet a character. This was before Mickey Mouse, where you could meet him in Toontown. This was where you could go into Baloo's dressing room and meet Baloo from TaleSpin. Now, when Aladdin came out, it was a huge success. In fact, it was the biggest box office success that Disney ever had to that point. And although I didn't work at Feature Animation, we were all given this button to celebrate that box office milestone. This one is maybe even a bit more rare, certainly more obscure. It says, "I got roped into the Great Mail Day Roundup." The Great Mail Day Roundup was an event on the Disney Studio lot, which was to promote the new automated mail system and that employees would be using mail codes. But I remember that event very well, and I remember having my camera there on the studio lot, as always, and taking some pictures of Mickey, and they had hay bales. I don't really understand the Western theme other than somehow you were roped into this. I don't know. But it got the point across for employees to understand about using mail codes. And that was September 13th, 1991. This was from the Disney Synergy department, and that's their logo there. And Disney Synergy, that department was really neat, and I loved getting their newsletters because they would tell you everything going on in the company. So it was a department to just help promote synergy throughout the company. Now, I love this logo, and this was an employee-only event that we had on the studio lot. And it was for the 10th anniversary of the Disney Channel, so this would have been 1993. But what I love, look at this. Well, Mickey only has 4 fingers, so they had to have 3 hands for him to be holding up the 10 fingers for the 10th anniversary. Well, this one's pretty rare, and this was also an employee exclusive. Disney was really into promoting not only the environment, but just things that would help people. And one of the things was donating blood. So if you donated blood, which you could do on the lot, you would get, "I'm a blood donor." And this one I think might be the most rare button that I have. It was from 1976, and it's from Disneyland, but it wasn't a cast member pin, and you couldn't buy it. What makes it so special is that it was given out to students who would come to Disneyland on a field trip to see a very unique show in the Fantasyland Theater. The Fantasyland Theater was a small little theater that sat right about where Pinocchio's Daring Journey is today in Disneyland. But these buttons were only given out to kids who visited Disneyland as part of a school field trip and saw the live Fun with Music show.